we were talking in the first hour about Donald Trump's erratic behavior that was a function of, well, we have different theories as to what it's a function of, but certainly it comes in the wake of what is an increasingly large Democratic wave in terms of taking the House and contesting some state houses. And your theory is, and I think there's clearly some decent evidence around this, that Donald Trump's narcissism has been wounded in some way, and more importantly, that his not just his self-esteem, but he feels that his image of everything turning to gold may be tarnished in some way with his supporters. Now, I have to say, I'm a little skeptical of that. I think that his concerns are perhaps maybe a little bit more material. I mean, he was definitely testy the day after the election, and that looks like, I think to me that was wounded pride. I think he still has the ability, and frankly, he may think that his followers won't follow him, but I don't think that they care. I mean, let's just go back to the notion of the caravan. 2 weeks ago, this country was on wartime footing because of a caravan of Honduran mothers and fathers and children walking ostensibly to the U.S. border. And we sent down 5,200 troops with another 7,500 on the ready at a cost of $200 million. And if you watched Fox News, we were about to go to war. And now, nothing. Not a word about this. Like, you need to find news on the caravan. So, I mean, that was a failure of the media and obviously a lie by the president.
Yep.
But my point being that if any of these people were rational and were applying rational tests to Donald Trump, they'd all be going like, hey, wait a second, what happened? I thought this was like our, this is your Churchillian moment. And, we had nothing to fear but fear itself. And, we were all going to, send our kids to the country so that when the caravan came, they'd be safe. What? It's gone. It's not a news item. There's not this huge revolt of people saying, what happened? It's just like, on to the next thing.
Well, I think that sort of is one reason why I kind of think the fact that he has to present himself as a big winner is important to at least some of his followers. I mean, some of them, they're just, Richard Nixon had 30% or something when he left. So there's always going to be some rather large number of Americans who are going to stick with Donald Trump. I have no doubt of that. But if it turns out that I think there is at least some small group of people who follow him, who he recognizes, are enamored of him because he's a winner. Because no matter what happens, he's able to pull it out. It's this high wire act. Bill Clinton had a little of this too. Always kind of walking the tightrope, but somehow coming out, landing on the other side. And there's a certain number of people who are kind of attracted to that, this ability to kind of always win, always kind of, land on your feet. And I think that Trump has a sense of that. So the fact that he's able to, that we leap from one thing to the next for us and for many of his people, that's just fine. That's just, they're just following the news cycle, and it doesn't matter what happened 24 hours ago. We're, riveted to what's happening right now. But I do think that there's something, maybe it's among those kind of, the richer white guys who really care about their portfolios and all that seeing him kind of, being unable to pull it off may make them shake a little bit. Now, I don't know if any of his followers will do that. I think you may be right. Maybe they won't. But I think he might think that. I think, he's the one who's up there. I'm a winner. I'm going to be winning so much that you'll beg me to stop winning. Win, win, win. That's his mantra, right? I'm the big winner. And to have it sort of openly exposed that he isn't that he isn't omnipotent in this way, I think maybe at the source of some of what's bothering him. But of course, he also has Robert Mueller breathing down his neck. He's got Jerry Nadler breathing down his neck. He's got the Southern District of New York breathing down his neck with Michael Cohen in their pocket, David Pecker in their pocket. And that didn't sound right. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Worse than that, Alan Weisselberg, who his chief financial officer of the Trump Organization, was all three of those guys were revealed in that Wall Street Journal report, which we'd sort of known before, but it gave a lot more detail, had cooperated with the Southern District of New York in revealing, and I think they've got documentary evidence and audio files and everything else that show that Donald Trump basically committed felonies with campaign finance violations. And that's out there, and the only reason he isn't indicted today is because he's the president. Exactly.
That's what basically every expert said was, were it not for the fact that he was the president, he would be indicted, but there's just, you need to climb a steeper hill in that instance. Well, I think like all of these things are acting upon him. He fired Jeff Sessions, right after the next day. That was clearly in the works. But let's take a break. When we come back in just a moment, I want to talk more about Matt Whitaker. This is the guy who was the chief of staff of Jeff Sessions. And I'm quite convinced that he was not a Jeff Sessions pick. I'm quite convinced that this is a Mike Pence pick. In fact, it's my understanding that Mike Pence has staffed much of the White House. And there's talk right now of Mike Pence's chief of staff becoming Donald Trump's chief of staff. And because Matt Whitaker is one of those guys who was caught on tape saying, I don't think judges should be anything but Christian. And he sounds like a Mike Pence guy. He was brought in, a movement conservative, also a big fundamentalist Christian who had publicly advocated for different ways in which to slow down the Mueller investigation. And I think that attracted Donald Trump. There are reports that he was going over there, basically two-timing the Department of Justice, telling Donald Trump what was going on over there. And Donald Trump appointed him acting attorney general in the wake of Trump, well, not necessarily firing, but firing Jeff Sessions. And we will talk more about that in a minute. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio. Digby will join me on the other side, and we will pick up on that, on what's happening at the DOJ.